The F-14 was not what the fighter community asked for, but it was a compromise. All right, so the fighter community got certain things. The gun was an afterthought, but they finally agreed to put the gun in there. A two-person crew, we didn't want to do that. You can see the nose cone. That's a big nose, as it turns out. The effective distance of the radars of that day was directly proportional to the size of the disc. I don't know if that's true today, but it was back then. So they had to have this radar system, the AUG-9 radar system, that went out 250 miles for, for long-range defense for the carrier task force. Okay, I'd buy that, sure, that makes a lot of sense, right? But now you have the compromise with close-in air combat. So anyway, now from here you can see some of the aerodynamic features of the airplane. The way this airplane is set up, the wings are swept back. It's a swept wing airplane. Swept wing was kind of a novel idea back then, and so we tried it out on a couple of airplanes. The FB-111 is another one that the Air Force used. This one, the B-1. And it was okay, but it didn't work as well as we would like it to have worked. And that has to do with because everything you do is a compromise anyway. Right? So the big compromise was weight. That was the big thing. So anyway, you can see pilot and the weapon system operator, they worked together pretty well. It was a good team effort. They worked very hard on this, what we call cockpit resource management. They worked hard on that. The airplane was equipped with some pretty impressive firepower because it could. It had the room, and it was the time where we were able to build these sophisticated weapon systems. And so it was a very lethal airplane. You can see underneath the nose, you notice that there's something protruding out there. That's the IR detector, this infrared detector, and that helps the whole weapon system function better, be able to detect IR signatures. Like I said, there's a gun, the Gatling gun. Now here was the thing, all right? So you have an airplane that can defeat an enemy airplane 250 miles range, okay? So over the horizon, almost, okay? And then you have an airplane that can defeat an enemy airplane in close-in air combat. So that's all part of the mission objectives of the F-14. Where we ran into some intellectual difficulties was, and this took a long time for all of us, to acknowledge it, but acknowledging the fact that the skill sets required for close-in air combat were significantly different than the skill sets required to execute the long-range engagements. What we had started to do with the Phantom, and more or less continued to do that with the F-14, was to emphasize the skill sets for long-range engagements. And the grassroots initiative was opposed to that idea. And finally, I would say that in terms of who won the day or who won the argument, I would say that the grassroots initiative won the argument. Right? Now, having said that, I will tell you that the argument's still going on. So, you know, so it's still a contentious issue. If you ask the fighter pilots like me, what do you think? I would say that, you know, the bread and butter activities are the close-in air combat. You have to be successful there. There is no other option available to you. You have to be successful in the close-in air combat. And now that's what I was doing when we were on deployment on the USS Constellation. So we had these brand new F-14s. The grassroots initiative started once again. These young fighter pilots wanted more, better close-in air combat training, and they were not going to take no for an answer. So, you know, I went through all kinds of people, and finally it got to me through my Air Wing commander, and he said, "Kevin, can you do this for us?" Now, why me? Okay, well, as it turns out, I happened to be flying at the time the F-8 Crusader, which was a very, very close in performance to our to the airplane we wanted to defeat in air combat, which was the MiG-21. And why was I flying the F-8 Crusader? That happens to be a long story. That was a very, very remarkable airplane. And it was probably, if you ask most people that know the airplane, they would say that was the finest close-in air combat airplane ever built, ever. So the F-14 crews wanted to fight a Class A airplane. All right? They wanted to fight against the best. What is the best that the enemy could throw against us, and how do we defeat that? And that was the mission objective, and we were successful, I think, you know, because the F-14 flight crews, they loved it, right? They were very, very excited about having this ongoing capability while on deployment. And it really was an exciting time for us, you know. And I think, you know, in my experience, it was a really exciting time for naval aviation, because we were able to do things that hadn't been done before, and we were able to do things that, and you'll love this, David, that a lot of people said couldn't be done. But we did it, you know, we did it, right? And, you know, and we proved them wrong. We proved all the people that said, well, you can't do that, you know, there's no way that, you know, and that's, as it turns out, we could.